Okay, so in the last lesson, I showed you how to create a data model and a data statement. So we're now going to actually test the data statements to make sure that they actually work as you expect them to. So we created an add order data statement. Let's create another one called get orders. It's just a simple data statement that can get the order that we add. So let's create that. And to make it easy to test the add data statement, add order data statement, we'll actually add some parameters for stuff that we expect to be to supply. So we'll add one for product ID. So this is something that you would expect, if you're implementing an actual order management system, that information should come through. We don't need to supply the type. That's internal. It's not something that you get from the client. So for the get orders, we'll actually just say get orders. In other words, it'll just enumerate all the orders in the system. Now let's say select order that from order, right? And then we still need to drop this reference because that's how we know what to look for. As you notice, the references, the data models have to be fully qualified. So you can't just put a wild card there. It would not know what to do with it. You have to say order that dot star. So let's save this. And as you can see, it automatically generated the correct select statement for us. Now this is mapped directly to the actual database table, and it extracted the result set template for us, the correct one. So to test this, we want to we can uncheck that. You don't actually strictly need to uncheck that just for testing. We can simulate it. When you simulate, you don't need to do that because it's not a requirement. So let's test the add functionality, right? So we'll just provide, let's say, 20 is the product ID, and then we're going to simulate it. Let's say success. Now we're going to test the get orders statement. What it should do is just enumerate the orders that we get. As you can see, it retrieved it for us. So that order that we just added, number 20, is coming back. We can add another order number 22, and run this again. And again, we can go to we can run a test on the get order again, simulate, and it returns both of them. So we can now continue to build on this. You can filter, add where clauses, and all of that stuff, just as you would in any ordinary SQL interaction. You can look at the to-do list example. Like I said, that's what's used there. So it shows you everything that's possible. Essentially, you use this just as you would regular SQL against regular database table, except you have the flexibility to map multiple data models to the same table. Now we're going to do something a little bit more interesting. So you have orders. Let's say now we have the product ID. Let's say you want to create a model for the product ID. I mentioned that you can map multiple data models to the same table, but I also mentioned that there's some caveats that you have to look out for. One of them would be an example that I'm going to show, which is, let's say you want to create a model for orders. So let's create a category here called, for products, I'm sorry. Let's create a category called product, right? And we'll go through the same process of creating a data model. Call this data model. Okay, let's It's not a bug that needs to be fixed. If you're using this and that happens, you really should just refresh. That's the cool thing about, I guess, a web-based tool is you could always just refresh. That's a known bug that we're working on fixing. We'll try this again. Try to create a data model object. Just frustrating. We'll just clone this and use it. Probably by the time you see this this screencast, it won't actually be a problem for you because it's something that I'm going to be working on to fix. So we clone that and just use that one. We have this, and we're gonna fill it in just as we did before. Product is the name of the data model. It's map. It has the mapping that we had before, and the namespace need to be fixed. So instead of order, it's now product. Right. Well, here's a problem. Because it's now mapped to the same database table, how can you do, let's say, a join between order and product? That's a problem. You can't actually do that with SQL joins. As far as I know, you need to have separate tables. There may be some trick that you could use, but it'll probably be a bad idea. So that's just an example of one of the caveats. You know, like if you want to enumerate orders and have the product, let's say the product name listed in the order, then that means you can't actually map it to the DCTP table. You have to create another data table. So that's why in practice, the way you would use this whole data modeling would be to have, let's say, a pool of DTCP tables, maybe like 5 or whatever you think you need, and then you can distribute your data models amongst those tables. That way, problems having to do with joins don't come up. So that's, as I mentioned earlier, that's one of the caveats that you have to look out for. So this is, data modeling. It does seem to require a number of steps. That's because we're kind of doing the whole process step by step by step. But as we improve tooling, you won't have to do that. It will automate a number of these steps for you and make it a lot simpler to use.